Also, talking about reopening, we're going to make reopening decisions on a regional basis, based on that region's facts and circumstances about the COVID virus. In other words, just like some states will reopen before other states because they have a different circumstance when it comes to COVID and their status with COVID, it's also true across the state. North Country has a totally different situation than New York City. Central New York has a different situation. We operate as one state, but we also have to understand variations, and you do want to get this economy open as soon as possible. And if a situation is radically different in one part of the state than another part of the state, take that into consideration. And that's what we're going to be doing. So the same logic that applies to the country applies to some states, this state, where you have those varieties across the state. And we need to take that into consideration. So the way we've been working on the economy in general across the state, where we recognized there's one state, yes, but there are regional economies within the state, and we've been working with each individual regional economy. We'll do the same thing on this phase. Let's talk about reopening economies in that regional context and coordinate it regionally. And that's what we're going to be doing. And again, I've said this statewide, but I want all our regional partners to hear us. Let's not talk about just reopening. Let's not have gone all through this and all we're going to do is go back to where we were. How do you use this as an opportunity to learn the lessons and to build back better? That's what we have to do. For Western New York, we have my partner, Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul, who, as everybody knows, is from Buffalo. We're going to ask her to take charge of the Western New York, monitor the public health issues, make sure if there's a problem in terms of public health, we're marshaling all the resources from across the state to help Western New York, and also to start to work on the reimagining and the reopening plan for Western New York. We're also going to ask Bob Duffy, who worked with me in the state, to volunteer to be a special advisor to coordinate public health and reopening in the Finger Lakes, the Rochester area. Last point, we've gotten through difficult situations before. Western New York, we went through 7 feet of snow a couple of years ago. That was fun. We learned from that. The state, we went through 9/11, which was a crushing experience, but we learned from that, and we're different and we're better. We went through Superstorm Sandy, and we are the better for that. And we're going to be the better for this. I believe that. It's the hard times in life that actually make you better and make you who you are, if you're intelligent enough to learn from them and to get the message from them. And that's what we have to do here. We have to do it individually. We have to do it collectively. What did we learn about ourselves, about the world, about the country from this period that we're in? And you get knocked on your rear end in life. Yeah, that happens. You get knocked on your rear end. It's going to happen. The question is, do you get up? And if you get up, what type of person are you? And did you learn from getting knocked on your rear end? Sometimes you get knocked on your rear end and you have nothing to get up. Get up. Have the strength to get up. Have the wisdom to learn from the experience and be a better person for it. Michael Jordan documentary is on TV. I'm a big Michael Jordan fan. He doesn't make the varsity team. Michael Jordan. Bad coach, maybe. But he got knocked on his rear end. He was disappointed. What did he do? He worked harder, practiced more. Michael Jordan wasn't just born. You know, God didn't say, here he is. He made himself the great player that he is. And New York, we make ourselves. This nation, we make ourselves. World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. Some of the most tragic situations actually forged the character and the resolve of this nation. New York State, the same thing. And we have to be smart enough to do the same thing here. And we will, because we're New York, tough, but not just tough. It's easy to be tough. It's hard to be smart and disciplined and unified and loving. That's what's harder than being tough. But we're all of the above. That's why we're special. Let's take a few questions. I have to go down to Washington, and everything is a little tight from a scheduling point of view today. Sir?
On that White House visit, what do you see the focus being? Will it be a discussion about reopening with the president? What will the focus of that visit be?
Testing. And what does testing mean, and how do we do it, and how can the federal government work in partnership with the states? Just basically, because this is all new. And look, it's a situation that is very difficult. And it is a situation where, however you do it, it's going to be a blame game afterwards. I heard the president in his briefing the other day. He's right. This is one of those thankless tasks. Trust me. It is one of those tasks where when you get to the end of it, everybody's going to be able to say, you didn't do enough, you didn't do enough, you didn't do enough. So I get the instinct to distance yourself from it, right? But it is a situation where you need everybody to work together, and you need to understand quickly who's in a better position to do what. From my point of view, I think the federal government has to take that national manufacturer supply chain issue. God bless Governor Hogan, but you shouldn't expect all these governors to go run around and do an international supply chain while they're trying to put together their testing protocol in their state, coordinating their labs, how many tests in Buffalo, how many tests in Albany. Then I have to put together an army of tracers. That's thousands of people. It's never been done before. I'll take all of that. Just don't give me guilt and make me look bad to my family and my state when Governor Hogan goes to South Korea and buys all the test kits.
In regards to reopening the state, that seems to be tethered to testing until yesterday. Merely symptomatic folks couldn't get a prescription to get a test in Western New York. What can the state do in the short term, understanding you need federal government's help, but what can the state do in the short run to ramp up testing here? Because this is an area that's lagged behind.
Yeah, we are testing as a state, just so you know, we're testing more than any state in the United States, a multiple of other states, more testing per capita than any country on the globe. That's what we're doing in New York. So we are doing more faster than anyone else. I get the New York attitude. I don't care. That's not enough. I get it. We have to do better. We have to do more. And we need more tests. And that's what we are talking about here. The testing will educate you as you're making your transition to reopening, right? How do you get across the swamp? Stone to stone across the morass. Stone to stone across the morass. One step at a time, and make sure you're on firm footing. And then you look for the next stone, then you look for the next stone, then you look for the next stone. The testing tells you where the stones are. And the testing tells you when to pause. And that's why you need the testing. You need more testing in Western New York, yes. You need more in Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, North Country, Southern Tier, and New York City and Long Island. We need more all across the board. That's why I'm going to Washington. Mr. McCarthy?
Governor, when you head down to the White House today, I think it's been fair to say that you've had to walk a fine line in your dealings with him. There's criticism that you have, and there's praise that you have for him. So how's this going to continue when you meet with him today? How are you going to handle this?
Bob, life is a fine line. Life is a fine line. Being in government is a fine line. Everything is a fine line. I'll tell you how I negotiate the fine line. You tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And I said to the president from day one. And by the way, he's done the same vis-a-vis me. He has no problem telling me when he disagrees, and he tells me when he agrees. I have no problem telling him when I disagree and when I agree. So fine line, and you can try to figure it out. Or you know what? Heck with it. Just tell the truth, and whatever it is, it is.
How do you think it works today when you talk to him today?
You know, I think there's been a lot of discussion about testing, but I don't know that people have really, I think in many ways we're talking past each other. I understand the federal government's point that it's up to the states, and I believe it is largely up to the states. But then even the federal government will stand there and do a whole presentation on what they're doing on testing. So then it's not really up to the states if the FEMA people get up there and an admiral gets up there and talks about what they're doing on testing. All right, so then let's just coordinate who does what. What do the states do? What does the federal government do? What do you do and what do I do? I'll do whatever I'm supposed to do. Just tell me what I do and what are you going to do? And I'm going to ask them to take this piece of this national manufacturers getting the test kits and the vials and the cotton swabs and the chemicals. And if they get that done for the national manufacturers, and then the national manufacturers can feed my 211 labs, then the states can take it from there.
Governor Ali Tui from 7 Eyewitness News here in Buffalo. Thanks again for joining us. There's continued frustration over unemployment. We have folks calling, emailing daily saying that 72-hour window where they were promised a phone call back has come and gone. What can you say to them, you know, to ease their frustration, and what's being done to smooth the process?
Yeah, this is, they're right. They are right. I'll tell you the bad news and the good news. The bad news is there were so many unemployment claims that it has collapsed the unemployment department's system, their website system, their phone system. We have 1,000 people who are now working on that unemployment website and phone call system. I mean, it's unbelievable. 1,000 people just to take the incoming unemployment calls. That's how high the volume is. And they still can't keep up with the volume. And there's nothing worse than being unemployed and nervous about a paycheck, and then you call for unemployment benefits and you can't get through on the phone. I get it. I get it. And we have 1,000 people working on it. We have Google working on it. We have all these experts working on it. But they're trying to bring up a system, again, that did a much, much lower capacity. This is 100 times whatever we've ever done before. The good news is this. You're going to get the same benefit anyway. It's not like it's costing you money, right? I know it's frustrating, but once you qualify, the qualification is retroactive, so you're going to get the same benefit. It's not costing you any money. It's not that because you couldn't make the call today, it means you're not going to get the benefit. You will get the benefit. It's just an annoying delay. And believe me, people are working 7 days a week on it. Let's take one more.
Governor, as far as your regional committees go, have those regional committees started meeting yet? What is the timetable for that, and what will it take for you to say, okay, we've got enough data, open up this particular region? Okay.
There are no committees here. This is, we've always talked about the economy of the state in terms of different regions. Manhattan is not Buffalo. Let's use that same regional template when we talk about reopening. Let's look at the numbers for that region on the COVID virus. Let's look at the hospitalization rate. Are we on the ascent? Are we on the descent? Are we on the plateau for that region? Hospital capacity for that region, infection rate for that region, and then let's be open to making a region by region determination, right? So look at that region. Who does that? The state does that, working with the local governments. That's it. There is no new committee here. There's no new process. It's just,
Bob Duffy is leading up.
yes. Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul in Western New York will be not just focusing on that decision. It's more the when and the how, right? Let's take Western New York. When do you reopen it? Like all these governors in all these states are trying to figure out when. Well, look at the data. Look at the hospitalization rate, look at the infection rate, and tell me where you are. Are you the ascent, plateau, the descent? CDC has guidelines. You have to be stable or declining for 2 weeks. Look at the CDC guidelines. Talk to the local officials. The when is data-driven. It's not when do you want. If the question is when do you want, my answer is I want it yesterday. Okay, it's not what you want. It's data-driven. All right, so look at the data. Kathy Hochul will coordinate that with the local officials. And then I think the better question is, and when we reopen, what did we learn, and how do we reimagine Western New York to be the better for it? And what lessons do we want to take forward when we do the reopening? And then on the reopening, how do we phase it? What businesses first? Do we do it by percentages? Let's talk about all of that. So it's the when and the how, data-driven on the when. Not political pressure on the when. Well, people are yelling at me. I want to open because I don't want to take the political heat. If you don't want to take the political heat, you shouldn't be in the political kitchen, which is called being an elected official in the state of New York. I have to get to Washington. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Schumer said that a vote on the stimulus could come today. There's no state money in that right now. Do you have hope that could change by the time they vote on it?
I think it's a terrible mistake not to provide funding for the states. I get small businesses. I get airlines. How about police? How about fire? How about healthcare workers? How about teachers? We're not going to fund schools? I don't get it. I don't get it. That's why I'm not in Washington. Thank you very much, guys.